Good morning. Welcome to MAT098. Sorry, my screen usually shows me what you see. Anyway, anyway. See, this is the kind of day I'm having. Welcome to MAT098 Section 2. This is Mod 7 of the calendar year, Mod 3 probably for most of you. Some of you maybe give or take one. This is week 1, and I am your instructor, Mike, and welcome to my day. This is my 3rd time attempting to start this live session, which luckily no one's here, because then it's way less awkward. Although at the same time, no one's here, so way more awkward, because now you have to listen to me for the next, roughly hour. So anyway, all kinds of technical issues and blah, 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 blah. But here we are, here we go. So a couple of quick things. Oh yeah, and I have wonky headphones on. So it's messed up, and there's duct tape on them, and the duct tape is sticking to my head. Why they brought me these headphones, I don't know. I don't know why they aren't in the garbage yet, but my kids were helping me out, so beggars can't be choosers, I guess. Anyway, so welcome. We'll today take a look at a couple of just one housekeeping thing, really. We'll look at some technical difficulties. Just a quick, hey, here's what to do. Here's what as instructors and as a college we need from you when you run into technical difficulties. A little public service announcement. We will take a look at place value and rounding, which is what we're dealing with today. And then we will share closing thoughts and send you on your way. So on to our housekeeping stuff. Wrong screen. See, I'm telling you, my trend is continuing. This is the way it's going to be all day. I better not be. It'll be a long day. Anyway, so seriously. It's Tuesday. You all ended up in this course for one of 3 possible scenarios, through one of 3 possible scenarios, I should say. The first one is you, during CSS 101, did not take the math readiness quiz, and they automatically enrolled you. The second option is you took the math readiness quiz, but you decided that you didn't want to stay, or that you wanted to take this. You took it, you scored above an 80%, and decided that you wanted to not skip this class. You decided you wanted to be here, and so they put you in it. The third option is you took the math readiness quiz, scored below an 80, and here you are. Now, what we have available for you during week 1 only is a math readiness quiz. Now, I know you're thinking, seriously, dude? You just told us we already took this. No, you didn't take it. What you took was one that covered this course and the next one, which is MAT098. And so what the one that you have available this week is just the content from MAT098. That's all. So it's possible that when you took it the first time, everything you missed was from the pre-algebra section of the quiz. And that you don't, you're solid on all of the stuff that we're about to cover. Maybe you just want to see, hey, you know what? I kind of want to see how I do on just this information. Great. This quiz can't hurt you at all. Take it, fail it, get a 0 on it, get a 20%, doesn't affect your score in this class whatsoever. What happens is if you pass it with an 80% or higher, you have the option to not participate in the math portion of the class. We still ask you to participate in the discussions because there's value in that interaction with your classmates. But the assignments and assessments, you're excused from, assuming you score higher than an 80%. So, yeah, but that's only available during week 1. Okay, that's not available during subsequent weeks. So keep that in mind. All right, enough of that nonsense. Oh, seriously, it's Tuesday. Let's get on to our public service announcement. If you have questions about that quiz, because I realize that was somewhat jumbled and disjointed, and I'll settle in, I promise. Shoot me an email, send me a text, give me a call. That's what we're here for. All right, technical difficulties. We're an online college. We're going to have technical difficulties. Trying to load Zoom this morning, just sat and stared at a blank screen, and then it loaded and immediately froze. I don't know what the deal was. I mean, it's part of what caused my delay this morning. A big part of what caused my delay this morning. And that wasn't even something that can be fixed by them. So I mean, technology, it's going to get in the way. When it is something that is a result of, Canvas or the hardware system with the laptops that they sent you kind of stuff, contact IU. Contact the IU help desk. There's information all over the webpage. Contact the IU help desk. If it's a Canvas issue, contact Canvas and get it registered in the system. One of my students yesterday from my live session said, documentation is the key. And that's just it. You'll notice the second bullet on the screen says you must contact me via email ASAP within 2 days. That's not my rule. I didn't write that. In fact, this whole screen was given to me. That's the university policy, is if you have issues. Now, I mean that, if you don't contact me, you don't contact me. Really what contacting me does is if for some reason you end up with stuff late, it allows for flexibility. If you've contacted us. Otherwise, or if there's no documentation, it's just a super convenient excuse. Yeah, my internet was down. You'll notice I said this morning that it was one of the things that made me late this morning. It was not the only thing that made me late. I can blame a portion of my issues on technology. I can blame a portion on my sister-in-law. If I was in trouble for it, human nature says I'm probably only going to blame what? The technology, right? They don't need to know about my sister-in-law. They need to know about the technology. So those are all things that need to happen. Contact the help desk. They're great about getting back to you. They will create a ticket. You can even ask them to email it to you. Canvas works through email, so they'll just email you their ticket. And I mean, they're quick. The more information we have as instructors, as faculty, the more we can do to help you. And again, documentation is the key. So that's the first part. That's just a quick public service announcement. I actually have quite a bit of flexibility concerning things in this class, but your other instructors don't have as much flexibility as I do. It's the nature of the course that I'm teaching versus what they teach. Now, the second half of this public service announcement addresses internet. I love the internet. I really don't. I hate it. I hate my kids are on all the dang time. I hate when my router goes out and dumb AT&T tells me, despite the fact that there's literally like a truck across the street from my house, that it's going to be 3 days and they have to ship it to me instead of just having the guy in the truck walk one over. So, I mean, come on, internet, right? It's kicking the teeth. And the story I just told you is a true story. I've had my internet go out. Here's the thing. When I started teaching here, one of my agreements to being a teacher, or to being an instructor here, was that I would always have reliable internet. So those 3 days when AT&T was being super awesome, I had to go teach at my brother's house. My wife, during those same 3 days, she was at the time an online student. She had to go do work at, she chose to go to the Starbucks in a Target and sit and use their Wi-Fi. Okay, there's friends, family members, McDonald's, libraries. Okay, just about every joint now offers free Wi-Fi. Half the time you don't even have to go in. You could sit in your car and do it. I don't know why you would, but you could. Okay, so internet is less of an excuse for not having stuff done on time than you want it to be. I love to blame stuff on the internet. It's great, but part of your student contract, just like part of mine, part of your student contract is making sure that you have reliable internet and that you have a backup solution in place when you don't. Okay, so keep those two things in mind. All right, but again, and I always feel like I sound, rah, rah, rah. We want to help you. Just talk to us, right? If something comes up, a student yesterday, hey, I might be moving, across the country during this mod. And I said, great, let me know when you get closer and you have a more concrete idea of what and how much it's going to affect. Always talk with your instructors before when you can. I realize you can't always talk before, right? Me losing my internet, my router going out, that there was nothing I could do. I couldn't plan for that. I didn't know. Okay, but a move, yeah, that's coming. Don't wait until after, right? Every once in a while I'll get a student who's emergency stuck in the hospital. You don't know that's happening. I don't expect an email beforehand. I expect an email afterward, but I don't expect one beforehand. But, as often as you can, contact your teachers as quickly as you can. All right, enough about that. Let's move on. Let's talk place-by, because this is why we're here, right? We're not here for public service announcements, and we're not here to talk about whatever we were talking about before my public service announcement, which, don't get me wrong, was sweet, right? So sweet, I can't even remember what I was talking about. That's how awesome that was. How many of us feel like this about math? I certainly have at times in my life. Most of junior high, I felt like that for sure. I remember knockdown dragouts with my mom, which, my mom, bless her heart, brilliant math teacher, and I did not recognize it. And I would sit and get so frustrated, and I never yelled to a point where my father felt he needed to step in and say, which means I guess I wasn't yelling at my mom, but no, that's not the way my teacher said to do it. And so I get it. For those of you who this is how you feel about math, I get it. I've been there. For those of you that are like, I love math, it's great. I get that too, because I do love math. I think it is great. I think we can all love math. Here's the thing about math, though, and this is where it differs from reading, right? I was a reading teacher for years, an elementary reading teacher. And the thing about it is you can miss a day, you can miss 2 days, you can miss 3 days. The skills in reading are so cyclical that you're always going to come back to it. Meaning you may not get it the first time, that's fine. We're going to come back to it like 7 more times. And so, it's just different. Math, on the other hand, is more like a ladder. And you start at the bottom and you work your way up.
And I'm sure there's someone who's a much better reading teacher than I am that's going to be like, reading's the same way. Whatever. I'm not having that argument. But I know that what happens on a ladder if I take out, for example, if I were to take out like this rung right here? How hard would it be to go from where I am to where I need to be? Pretty hard. Now, what happens if I go ahead and take that one out too? And so suddenly I'm missing this one and that one. We just went from being really hard to go from here all the way up to here to being close to impossible, right? Certainly, if I lose the next one up, it gets even more difficult, right? Not this one. Let's say we skip it and we lose that one right there. This just gets harder and harder and harder. Math is that same way. It builds on itself. If you're missing concepts, if you're missing ideas, guess what? Yeah, it's going to be difficult. 2 answers that I'm firmly okay with in this class are I don't know. Because while most of this stuff you should have been exposed to, everyone has unique circumstances. There may be something you weren't. It may be different than when you were taught it. Okay, there is a concept that I have had more than one person come to me and say, that was not how I was taught to do it as a student. And I say, that's great, it's how you do it now. I've had that argument with fellow teachers. I've had the argument with my stinking genius of a math brain brother, where he was adamant and the teachers were adamant that no, that's not the way you're supposed to do it. And I pulled out the book and looked at it and they said, that's not how I was taught. And I said, I don't think it's how I was either. So I don't know is a perfectly acceptable answer. I don't remember is perfectly acceptable. Okay. I'm not here to be like, haha, you don't know that. We're here to fill in those gaps. We're here to help build that base. And if that means saying, I don't know, then say, I don't know, so that we can figure out what needs. Now, here comes the fun part. And before I ask what I'm going to ask, well, I want you to read that number. Before I pause for it, there's a caveat. There's 2 caveats. One, I'm really super picky, which means if it is not exactly right, I'm flagging it as wrong. 2, the majority of you will miss this. And when I say the majority of you, I'm being loose with you. Adults will mess this up. Almost, I mean, at a ridiculously high level. I teach it and I still mess it up. Okay. So I asked my student yesterday, who was with me in class, to read that number. He looked at it and he said 879,056. You want me to say it again? 879,056. Now, it's possible that someone heard an and between 1,000 and 56, right? And they're saying, no, Mike. Okay, well, what about this? 879,056. Better? Okay. Still wrong, by the way. And then I put this one up, and he looked at it, and he said, no. Of course, I told him he had already missed the first one, which then made him more gun shy. Well, he looked at it and he said no, and I said, okay, here's the way I most hear it read. People look at it and they say 219,097,127,000, and then they realize their mistake. Because if I'm already at 127,000 and there's no decimals, I've got too many digits left over. Because after 127,000 should come 562. And then there shouldn't be anything because there's no decimal, and yet I've still got 007 left. So a bit of a problem. Okay. That's the standard response on that one.
That's what most of my students do, inevitably. Okay. And then I put this one up because, you know, if we can't do the 219 something, surely we can do this other one that has even more digits. That seems logical. And then just because I'm apparently hurtful and mean, boom. Okay. Now, here's my question for you. Why are these numbers difficult to read? 879,056. Why is that difficult to read? Why am I still saying it wrong? What keeps us from being able to do it? The answer to the first question, I don't know. Maybe we weren't taught correctly. Maybe we were taught correctly and the wrong thing is so socially acceptable that we don't catch it. I mean, it's possible. Because the wrong thing is so socially acceptable, most people don't catch it. Here's the other reason they're difficult to read. And it's because we're missing knowledge. We know that those first three are the hundreds. We know the second set of three are in the thousands. We probably even know that the next set is millions. However, our number doesn't start, for example, this number right here, doesn't start with 127. This one doesn't start with 326. No, it starts with 489 something. This is 219 something. The problem is we know this way, but working the other direction, we're not sure, and we're trying to beat a clock. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about why the second time I said 879,056, or is that what it was? Yeah. Why it was still wrong. And that's the inclusion of the word and. Math is its own language, right? Most of us would argue it's a foreign language, right? One that we don't speak. It is, however, one we need to become comfortable speaking. And one of the ways we do that is by correctly reading numbers. And is how you denote a decimal. So if your number has no decimal in it, as none of those last four did, then it should not have an and in it. 101 reads 101, not 101. At best, you could argue the 101 is two numbers. It's 100 and then it's the number one. At best, you could make that argument. But the truth is, when you add and into it, that's going to throw off any mathematician who's listening, right? If they're in math mode. If they're just casual conversation, again, it's socially acceptable. If you watch The Big Bang Theory, they say numbers wrong all the time on The Big Bang Theory. They throw ands all over the place. It drives me nuts. And it only bugs me. This is not like, I'm not that guy. It only bugs me because they're supposed to be, you know, mathematicians, like brilliant, genius mathematicians. And they're messing up a skill that we teach children. So not that we don't, like I said, I still mess it up. But and does not mean what we think it means, so we need to go ahead and watch that. All right, so what it comes down to, what reading a number comes down to, and what writing a number, like if they give us the word, what knowing how to convert it comes down to, is place value and patterns. Okay, so here's a place value chart. Okay, one of my students yesterday, they're like, could you twist it? I like it this way. For those of you who know how to use for those of you who know how to use a place value chart, you understand that it's designed this way so that I can put digits underneath each column. That's the way a place value chart works. What I want to look for right now is patterns that exist. Now I have a cute little thought bubble that says, what patterns do you see here? Unfortunately, it's attached to one of the answers somehow. I'm not sure how I did that, but it is somehow attached to one of the answers to said question, and so it's not up yet. But take a look at that. What patterns do you see? What do you spot? Okay. See, that's where it gets connected. It's all messed up. The first thing we see is the place value repeats, right? We have 1, we have 10, we have 100. We get to the next, we have 1, we have 10, we have 100. We get to the next, we have 1, we have 10, we have 100. 1, 10, 100. Anyone want to guess what comes next? Yeah, 1, 10, 100, right? That 1, 10, 100 pattern repeats over and over and over again. What that means is anytime you look at a set of 3 digits, you always have a 1, a 10, and a 100. Identify them, always. Now, do you really have to? No. But we're talking, this is place value and rounding, right? When we get into rounding, yes, identify them. Figure out, this is the ones, this is the tens, this is 100, this is the 1,000s, this is the 10,000s, this is the 100,000s. Identify them. Why? Well, because it's rounding and you have to. You can't accurately round unless you do. So, first thing we see is we see a repeating pattern. Okay. The second thing we see is we see them in groups of 3, right? It says every 3 places, 1, 10, 100, we enter a new period. We see them grouped in 3s. Those groups of 3 are, as I pointed out, periods. Okay. A period is a set of up to 3 digits, the ones place, the tens place, and the hundreds place, grouped in a whole number. Okay, it's a period. Using our place value chart looks like this. Okay, these 3 digits are a period. And each period has the 3 place values in it. So when someone says, what's the value of of the period? What they're saying is, what are the 3 digits that make it up? Okay, Mike, but what if there's not 3 digits? Okay, what are the 2 digits? What's the 1 digit that makes it up if there's only 1? Okay, but if they give you 3, they want all 3. Well, Mike, how do we identify them? Simple, they're all named. Okay, I told you that this one that has no name, which I often refer to as the no name, is really the ones period. Pardon me. From there, we jump to our next set of 3, and that's the thousands period, and then the millions period, and then the billions period. And are you seeing the pattern in period naming? Hopefully, you're seeing the fact that they all just carry the blank period, right? Hopefully, that's what we're seeing here. If it's not, well, see it now. Okay, which means if I were to learn these next names, I would be able to learn that. Now again, the period thing almost never comes up. I'm not going to lie, I was an instructor here before I learned that. I didn't ever teach that to my day job students. I had no reason to. They didn't care what they were called. It doesn't come up often, but you need to understand that's what they are. Okay, when someone is mathematically speaking about a period, they're talking about the billions, right? The group of 3 digits that make up, well, a house or a period. Okay, Oh, sorry, I did fancy stuff and it's messy, so I didn't do it. All right. Now comes my next question, and to answer it, you have to relate it back to periods. My question is, are commas really necessary? The answer is no, they're not really necessary. What they are is extremely helpful. This is an argument that because I work with children and they love to be right and they love it when I'm wrong, they like to have with me because I don't like to use commas. Particularly not when I'm doing math. I don't like to use commas. They like to yell at me for not using commas. I like to not care that they yell at me. Here's what commas are good for. If I'm looking at that number, and particularly if I'm having to identify something in it, someone says, oh, name the digit in the millions place. Okay. Which one is it? Or they look at it and it's, hey, hey, read that number for me. If I'm going to do that, I have to know where I'm starting, and that's where commas and subsequently periods come into play. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to look at the 948, and we need to recognize that, remember, how many digits are in each group? Well, there's 3. So I start at the right. We always start at the right when we're placing commas. 1, 2, 3, boom, comma. 1, 2, 3, boom, comma. 1, 2, 3, boom, comma, right in between the 8 and the 4. And then we go 1, 2. Do I need another comma? I don't. Even if I had a third digit there, I wouldn't need a comma because it's the lead, and we never start a number with a comma. Now, as far as reading it goes, again, this is where I have to rely on my knowledge of periods. I know this first one is technically the ones period, but keep in mind, I would never ever say 948 ones. Okay. What I would say is it's the ones period, and then I'd move on. This is the thousands. This is the millions. This is the billions. So when I read a number, I simply read the number that's there as though it's one of these kind of numbers. And then I add the name. So 34 billion, 859 million, 203,948. Okay. That's how to read the numbers. When you want to write them, again, you just have to know place values, right? If someone gives me a number that is 34,203,948, I have to recognize that I'm missing something between billion and thousand, that's not the natural progression on a place value chart. If I don't recognize that, I'm going to write it wrong every time. So I've got to see that. All right. Place value challenge. Okay. I can't offer extra credit because I can't. Here's our place value chart to the billions. There's actually, it's already gone, an email that got sent out, and it has this in it. That's for your reference. It also includes the decimals, which you can just ignore, but I've sent it to you. Okay. I've given you the first 4 periods, the ones period or the no name, the thousands period, the millions period, the billions period. Your challenge is to find the next 8. The next 8 that come after billions. Okay, I'll give you a hint. Google's a good place to research. Okay. Once you have all those
those names, guess what? This becomes super easy to do. It's not difficult. It's easy. Okay? Sorry, my glasses are not playing nice with my super wonky headphones. So that's my challenge for you. I can't offer you extra credit because they don't let me offer extra credit. So it's just kind of the satisfaction. I also made it a discussion post yesterday. I knew I was going to do this, so I made it a discussion post just for the giggles of it. So good luck. Enjoy it. It's fun. All right, a couple of common mistakes that we run into while reading and writing numbers, mostly when writing. The first one is dashes. When do we use them? When do we not use them? Now, I'm talking about a dash, not a subtraction sign or not a negative sign. Okay? You use a dash when writing in word notation, and your number is between 21 and 99. Now, that's where you're looking at how you would read it, right? Meaning it doesn't matter where that 21 or 99 is in terms of value. It matters, is it between 21 and 99? So for example, 23, well, that's between 21 and 99. So boom, 20-3. Okay, 357. Well, notice that we didn't read the number 35-7. We said 57. Which means the 57, that's where our dash goes, 350-7. And the last one, 63,188. There's going to be a dash in between 60 and 3 and one in between 80 and 8, right? Because those are mine. Now, the exception there is 10s, 20s, anything that's multiple of that, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, etc. None of those get dashes when you write them. Okay. This is a less common mistake. There was a period where this was a really long, like I had a lot of students who were making this mistake. This is a short version. How do you spell 4? Yeah, F-O-U-R. How do you spell 40? Logic would suggest it's F-O-U-R-T-Y. However, logic would be dumb in this instance. It's F-O-R-T-Y. Okay? No U in it. All right. Rounding. Why do we do it? What's the purpose? What's the benefit of rounding? The benefit is this. Rounding allows me to do mental math. Okay. For example, if I'm at a store and I want a shirt that's $18.95 and a pair of pants that are $29.99, I don't need a calculator to know that I don't have enough money if $45 is the most I can spend. I know that $18.95 is almost 20. I know that $29.99 is almost 30, which means my total is going to be about $50. And that's, obviously before tax. If I've got $45 to spend, I don't need a calculator to tell me I can't make it. I can do that, and rounding is one of the key ingredients to doing it. Now, understand that rounding and estimating are not the same thing. When we talk about rounding, it often involves just a single number, right? When we're talking about estimating, we are talking about adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, okay? Yes, you can estimate a quantity, and that's going to be a single number, but that's not what we're talking about, okay? So let's talk about what the rule is, because there are actual rules for rounding. Okay, here they want us to round to the nearest 10,000. Well, the first thing I need to do is I need to identify what's in the 10,000s place. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, well, 1, 10s, hundreds, right?
So that's a tens. That's not, well, whatever. That's a tens. And then we go 110, and there should be a hundreds there, but there's not. So those are my two possibilities. I got this tens place and this tens place, but I need 10,000. So is it the 6 or is it the 5? Yeah, 6 is just the tens place. I want 10,000, so it's going to be the 5. Okay, I want to underline that because that's the number that could change. It's not a guarantee it changes, it could change. Okay, and I want that to happen. So next, I'm going to look at the 4 because while the underlined number is the one they asked for, it's not the decision maker. The decision maker is always the right neighbor, right? I'm really sorry. I hear it every time. One of the things that I teach my day job students, one of the things that my cousin did, and it's great because I love Mr. Rogers. And it's great because as dumb as I thought it was, it has stuck in my head with almost zero effort for like 13 years. And he, you know, Mr. Rogers' theme song, "It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be?" Now Fred sings "Won't You Be My Neighbor." My cousin, in his infinite wisdom, saying "Won't you be my right neighbor?" I mean, he would get his entire class singing this. He would, you know, they would be rounding something and he would go, "Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be?" And then he would just stop. And the whole class, "My right neighbor." And so dumb as it is, boom, stuck in your head now. Ah, you're welcome. Okay. So it's never the underlying number that makes the decision. And I'm bringing that up because I watch students do it over and over again. But it's never that number. It's always the number to the right. Okay, that's the one that makes the change, the decision of whether or not we're going to change the 5. Now, hopefully you remember 5 to the sky, 4 to the floor. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, then we bump up 1. If it's 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, then our number stays the same. In this case, we have a 4, which means our 5 is going to stay a 5. Now the trick comes in what happens to all these numbers. Because if I don't do something to change them, then did I really round? I didn't really round then, right? I didn't do anything to change them. So everything after the underlined digit zeroes out. So 54,867 rounded to the nearest 10,000 is 50,000. Okay, so let's look at another one. They want us to round to the same place value. They want us to round to the 10,000 spot. So again, I'm going to go through and I'm going to identify, here's a digit in the tens, in a tens place. And then we come over here and we have 1 and we have nothing. They want me to round to a place value where I have no number. What do I do there? What do you think I do there? The answer is we add a 0. Here's the thing. What we need is we need a digit there, but the digit we need there can't change the value of our starting number. They asked us to round 6,785 to the nearest 10,000. They didn't ask us to round 16,000 or 26,000 or 36,000 or pick a number. You can't just put it in there. the only thing we can do that doesn't change the value of our number is put a 0 there. So that's what we do. And because keep in mind, all this first step is just about place value. So there's the 0. That's the underlying number that we want. What's the number that's going to make the decision on what to do? It's the 6. And the 6 says what's going to happen. 6 says it's going to bump. Right? That 0 is going to become a 1. And again, remember what happens to all the other stuff? Yeah, 0's out. Okay. And again, if you think of it in terms of money, it's pretty logical. 6,785. If I, counting money, is it closer to 10,000 or is it closer to 0? Okay. So same idea, same number, in fact, but they don't want us to go to the nearest 100, or they don't want us to go to the nearest 10,000. They want us to go to the nearest 100,000. Well, here's the hundreds place, but that's just the hundreds place. I need the 100,000s place. 1, nothing, awkward. Well, clearly, if I can add 1 0, I can add 2. That's weird. If I can add 1, I can add 2. Okay. At that point, the first 0, because that's the 100,000s place, and then the second one makes my decision. Okay, so what does the second 0 say my first 0 is going to do? Yeah, the first 0 says the second, or see, this is so confusing. It's 0, right? 6,000, and again, think in terms of money. 6,785 rounded to the nearest 100,000. If I'm trying to save $100,000 and 6,785 is what's in my account, am I closer to having $100,000 or am I closer to having no money at all? Answer, closer to having no money at all. Okay, so just, there you go. All right, one more rounding thing I want to show you. And it's just, what do you do when, for example, we have a number like this? 2,992. They want us to round it to the nearest 100, which is going to be our first 9. What does the second 9 say happens to my first 9? Well, it says it bumps up. Problem, what comes after 9? Yeah, awkward. It's 10. 10 comes after 9. But I can't put 10 in there. I can put a 0 and I can carry the 1, and that's what I'm going to do. So this 9 became a 0. This 2 becomes a 3. What happens to these last 2 digits? Yeah. They 0 out. Okay. Okay, let's make it saucier. 299,999 rounded to the nearest 100. That's that place right there. What's going to happen? Where are we going to go? This 9 says that one becomes a 10, so the 1 carries, which makes this 9 become a 10, so the 1 carries, which makes this 9 become a 10, so the 1 carries, and 2 becomes 3. And then everything else, 0. Yep. You got it. That's the answer.
So any question? Well, there are no questions because I'm alone. Let me point out a couple of things. I spent probably to some of you, oh, pardon my stretching. Probably to some of you, I spent a ridiculous amount of time talking about using and talking about place value and periods and blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. The most commonly missed question from this week's assignment is because people include the word and in their word notation numbers. So they take a number, they're asked to identify the correct and it's that they put ands in there. Don't use ands. The second thing, remember, place value is asking for a single digit. Okay. When someone's talking about place value, they're talking about a single digit. On the other hand, periods is referring to up to all 3 digits. Okay. Keep those things in mind. All right. Let's share some closing thoughts and send you on your way. Assignments are due Saturday, July 15th at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Assignments, so here's the thing. Lots of you go in and you see that the assignment is worth what, 140, I think? And the assessment is only worth 50. And you think, well, I should practice on the assessment. No, you should not. You can only take the assessment twice. So let's say you get a 20 the first time and a 60% the second time. Guess what? That's the best you're going to get there. On the assignment, however, you can take it as many times as you want. So if I want to take it 7 times, if it takes me 7 times to get 100%, then it takes me 7 times. There's no penalty for it. Okay? That's the benefit. So I know the assignment is worth more. It's the same number of questions, practice on the assignment. Okay? You can do it over and over and over again. And then just a quick blurb about discussion posts. It takes 3 to get it. It takes 3 to even be eligible for full credit. If you don't have 3, then guess what? You're not getting full credit, period. There's no question. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions, text, call, email. Okay, email and text are going to be the most guaranteed way to get back to you. So yeah, if you need to, there you go. Okay, but again, it's not like I'm not going to return a phone call if you call. I'll totally return a phone call. It's cool. All right, my friends, that's it. That does it. We're calling this show. See you next week.